Okay, so one last curiosity about the UN Charter. The Charter came into force, so it became legally binding. Cosa significa? Entrò in vigore, insomma divenne giuridicamente vincolante on the 24th of October 1945. And since 1948, this day is celebrated as United Nations Day across the world. For example, as you can see from the picture, several international schools throughout the world celebrate this day with cultural performances, food fairs with food from all over the world. Now, general information about the United Nations. What do you think is the meaning behind the UN logo and flag? As you can see, there is a world map surrounded by olive branches on a blue background. Well, it symbolizes the tasks of the organization, which promotes peace and cooperation across the world. As far as the UN headquarters are concerned, they are in New York City, but the UN has local offices around the world. There are 6 official languages. To facilitate its role as an international forum for discussion, the UN has adopted these 6 official languages, and they are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. The official languages are used to help the member states to understand each other better. So, for example, during meetings, delegates may speak in any of the official languages, and the speech is interpreted simultaneously into the other official languages. And also, most UN documents are printed in all 6 official languages. The work of the UN is financed by member countries through 3 budgets. The regular budget, which is compulsory, che significa obbligatorio, for all nations and differs according to the national income of each country. The peacekeeping budget, which is not required for the poorest nations, and the voluntary funding, which is used to finance the UN's development and humanitarian programs such as, for example, UNICEF, and countries may choose which, if any, of these programs they wish to fund. But what happens if a state cannot finance the UN? Well, if a member state is 2 years behind on the payments, it loses its vote in the General Assembly. What are the aims of the UN? The primary aims of the UN and main areas of the UN's work are to secure international peace, eliminate poverty, and promote development, and protect human rights. These objectives are often called the 3 pillars of the UN, quindi 3 pilastri delle Nazioni Unite. And today, these pillars cover a variety of issues affecting humanity in the 21st century, including sustainable development, expanding food production, gender equality, health emergencies, disaster relief, education, disarmament, trade, as well as issues that were not in the initial project in 1945, such as climate change, terrorism, cybersecurity, protection of World Heritage Sites from destruction and conflict, quindi la protezione, no, dei siti patrimonio dell'umanità, and combating the trafficking of plundered treasures, quindi il traffico dei tesori e insomma delle ricchezze artistiche. We said that the UN is made up of many organs, each with a different function and jurisdiction. But as anticipated, we don't have the time to go through them all. I will talk to you about two of the most well-known bodies of UN. So the General Assembly and the Security Council. The General Assembly, it's the closest thing there is to a world parliament, where the representatives of the 193 member states of the UN meet. The General Assembly meets every year from September to December, and at the beginning of the meetings in September each year, the Assembly has a big debate at which heads of state present their views on a lot of issues that they think are important for the Assembly to discuss. And this can be everything from war to terrorism, disease, poverty. You can watch this video by yourselves to discover what is important to the General Assembly right now. There is Greta Thunberg, so it should make you think about something. Voting. A 2/3 majority of votes is required for decisions on important questions such as peace, security, admission of new members, and budgetary matters. Each country, large or small, rich or poor, has a single vote, and the Assembly's decisions are not binding on member states. Quindi non sono vincolanti le decisioni dell'Assemblea Generale. They are recommendations, the formal expression of the opinion of the international community of states. But since they reflect the opinion of a large number of states, states are under heavy pressure to conform to them. An example. Even though the General Assembly Resolution 1761 condemning apartheid in South Africa did not stop apartheid, it was the instrument through which the international community formally and publicly condemned this practice. And then the second organ is the Security Council. It's the organ responsible for maintaining peace and solving conflicts that threaten international peace, such as terrorism, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and so on and so forth. All UN member states must respect and follow its decisions. So the Security Council's decisions are legally binding on member states, sono vincolanti questa volta. The Council meets in continuous session. That means that it meets all year around whenever there is a threat to peace. Each Security Council member must have a representative available at UN headquarters at all times, in case an emergency meeting becomes necessary. The Security Council has 15 members. There are two categories of members in the UN Security Council. 10 non-permanent members that are elected every 2 years by the General Assembly in regional groups to ensure that each region is represented. So they are elected every 2 years, and you can check by yourselves the current non-permanent members by visiting the official UN website. Here's the link if you're interested. And then we got 5 permanent members, which are the 5 victors of the Second World War, of course: China, France, Russia, the UK, and the USA. Each member of the council has 1 vote. The permanent members can veto, so can give a negative vote, reject any resolution in the Security Council. So that word veto means negative vote. Any major decision of the Council must secure an affirmative vote of 9 members, and that all permanent members either vote in favor or abstain. If 1 or more permanent members vote against a resolution, it will not pass, even if there are 9 or more votes in favor. But if 1 or more permanent members choose to abstain, the resolution can be adopted if it obtains the required number of 9 votes in favor. Many critics, though, think the veto is the most undemocratic element of the UN and the main cause of inaction on war crimes and crimes against humanity, especially those of the permanent members themselves. They also question why these powers should rest with the victors of a war that took place over 7 decades ago. A funny fact, this man is called Andrei Gromyko, and he was the Soviet representative between 1957 and 1985. And he became known as Mr. Niet, which means Mr. No in Russian, because during the first 10 years of the UN, he used the veto 79 times. Now, the permanent members are increasingly aware of the unpopularity of casting a veto, so they are minimizing its use. Any UN member state can bring a situation threatening international peace to the Council's attention. The Council then determines if it's a threat to international peace and security by sending monitors. Then it encourages the peaceful settlement of disputes by calling the parties involved to find a solution by peaceful means, including negotiation and mediation, and then takes action on threats to peace with economic sanctions, travel and communication bans, rupture of diplomatic relations. It can authorize the use of armed force in order to maintain international peace. It can authorize the right to self-defense, and then can plan peacekeeping operations, which must be accepted by the host country, quindi praticamente dal paese che ospita queste operazioni, to help countries make the difficult transition from conflict to peace. The blue helmets worn by the UN peacekeepers are among the most common images associated with the UN. They are soldiers, police officers, but also civilians coming from all over the world who carry out a variety of activities such as implementing and monitoring peacekeeping missions and agreements, providing assistance after a natural disaster, protecting civilians, and so on and so forth.